Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So, let me just begin with a short introduction of the municipal corporation. So, now it has been renamed as Gurugram, as you must have been going through the news. It has been termed as the Millennium City, as a city where there has been a lot of investment with respect to IT, ITES infrastructure, even medical tourism, and more than 250 of the top Fortune 500 companies are based out of Gurugram. So the area of the city is roughly 250 square kilometer, almost 1.5 million residents, and the corporation as such, the body that I represent, has a 1800 crore rupees annual budget. The roles and responsibilities of the corporation are quite diverse. As they say, there are three levels of governance in India: the central government, state government, and the local level government, which is the corporation in case of cities. So responsibilities varying from infrastructure needs, be it roads, sewerage, water supply, street lighting, and then coming over to the health aspects of the citizens, provision of adequate health facilities, and maybe also skill development, taxation aspects, birth and death registration. So it is a wide gamut of responsibilities up its sleeve. So how did we zoom in on this initiative of having decentralized sewage treatment plants in Gurugram? So the necessity emerged out of the fact that there are almost 500 public parks under our jurisdiction, and more so potable water was being used for horticulture purposes in the parks. The water table of Gurgaon has been quite rapidly falling over the years, considering the enormous increase in population of the city and the rising water demand. Plus, the wastewater that is currently, in fact, generated out of homes and offices is just drained out, with or without a mandatory cleanup by the current STP, and the sewage treatment plant STP that we already have are on the outskirts and of quite big capacity, ranging from 50 MLD to almost 80 MLD. So we felt that we should rather try to tap wastewater close to the source, try to clean it, and if possible use it locally. So instead of routing it all to a centralized location, why not treat it locally and use it locally? So we began with a two-step procedure. We first mapped out the, if I can have a pointer. So we mapped out the existing sewerage line network on a GIS based map. So this is the entire map of Gurgaon, and you can see this is also not complete mapping, but we are ongoing on our efforts, and this we managed to do. Secondly, we overlaid it on a satellite imagery map. So then finally we could see where all the sewerage lines are going close to green belts or parks or any, if we have any green spaces. So we chose such locations based on this analysis. So after we zoomed in on the places where we could go ahead with this, we invited some proposals through EOI, floated an expression of interest, and we received three proposals, which I'll go through now in my presentation. So the first one was, it is smart sewage treatment methodology. SMART itself is an acronym. So it has a 5-step process beginning with sedimentation, and then it is left to ferment for certain time. It is passed through fixed film filters. Then after ozonation, it is sent through almost, you can say, a kind of a reed bed. So that is a final level of filtration. So this is a 5-step process. And the second solution that we chose was as was just mentioned by the previous speaker, the reed bed based method. So it's also known as a root zone or constructed wetland. So in this process, there is a minimal involvement of any machinery or any maybe electrical needs. It is more or less a biological method of cleaning up. So the benefits and advantages compared to the existing centralized STPs: wastewater, which often exceeds the capacity of the STPs, is again it's tapped, used. The space requirements at a local level are quite minimal. In fact, for a say 30,000 liters per day plant, the size of this room, maybe even 1/4 of this room can be adequately used for a 30 KLD plant. Then the cost of centralized, you take all the entire sewage waste to a central location, that too all on the outskirts, then you either let it flow out in a natural stream or you can pump it back. But both these aspects involve an additional cost per liter of treated water. So that is saved. Again, then use of potable water as such in parks, that too in a city like Gurgaon where water tables are falling and in summers there is often a scarcity of water, itself is quite criminal. So we have begun to use treated water for parks and horticulture purpose. Again, as I just mentioned that the energy and machinery requirements are quite simple, they are minimal. There is no as such odor or noise in the neighborhood region, so the traditional opposition of maybe local population for any new venture is quite minimalized. And finally, in the future, whichever projects we commission on this pattern, they can also be upgraded with the option of solar power, because the power requirements are quite minimal. So the timeline that we had, we began with the inception around April 16. Then we had our first pilot in August. We have a target of 20 such plants by the next month end, and a target of 100 in the coming year. This is the tentative location, and the picture below depicts the reed bed based method, which was used to have sewage treated sewage treated water used again for horticulture purpose. So we have a majority of the plants in parks, two traditional ponds there, as was mentioned by previous speaker, that there used to be so many of traditional water bodies in almost all the cities, but then they gradually vanished over the years. Either the natural flow was stopped or maybe they were encroached upon. So using this micro STP, we have sought to revive two of the traditional ponds to begin with, and then we can always scale it up later. 3 green belts along the national highway NH8, there also we have planned this to be implemented, and then 3 fairly big community centers with a good enough green space, which we are aiming to be served with this micro STP. Now this depicts the site where our existing smart sewage treatment plant is in operation. This is the entire setup, if you can see. So this is the inflow that we have taken a branch of the main sewer, and this is the sewage water that is collecting in the tank. So after a process of ozonation, this goes through this natural system, and so this may be a mechanical, but then this is all bio remediation of the waste, and this we can see is the finally treated water. So this park space also we are using for this treated water, and then we are taking it away through tankers to be used in nearby parks and green spaces as well. And just to conclude, these are the test reports. So as you can see, the initially COD was almost 418 and BOD was more than 180. And now after the even you can say within a month of the commissioning of this project, the BOD has fallen to 38, and the COD is down to 38, the treated water, and BOD is in the range of 10 to 15. And this also we expect to be even further reduced after the system stabilizes, because it takes certain couple of months to stabilize also. So that's it. That's my presentation, and I'll be open to questions at the end of it. Thank you.
Amit, I couldn't resist one question though. Tell us something about rainwater harvesting and stormwater storage. I mean, Gurgaon has seen this huge water deluge during the rainy season, if you remember this year. How do you plan to kind of channelize some of this huge rainfall, that water that gets drained out and wasted? Is there any plans for that?
See, municipal corporation as such, we have installed more than, you can say, 200 rainwater harvesting structures. But the problem with that is, after any, maybe even a couple of days of rain, they often get choked up. And sadly, the capacity of the government, or maybe the general, you can say, the sincerity of a government is often tested there, because the simple cleaning up of that rainwater harvesting often gets so much delayed that the entire rainy season passes. So that makes the entire initiative limitation. There are certain limitations, and now what we have done is that we have changed the strategy, and we are going with complete O&M also of the rainwater harvesting. We let the commissioning whichever agency is there, let it maintain also it for 5 years. So now we are again thinking of scaling up the entire venture.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you.